So I just want to thank everybody for coming today. 5G is one of the most serious, probably the most serious issue we now face on the planet, because it's not just this whole new range of frequencies going all the way up to 100 gigahertz. It's densification of what we already have. So it's more 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G. This is the Internet of Things. This is billions of devices connecting with other devices, smart meters, your antennas on the LED street lights, electric cars, with many other things in life that don't do us very good. We can choose not to have them. But when they're erecting phone masts and they're putting up all of these antennas, we cannot choose not to have these in our backyard, in our neighborhood. And these are going up, these antennas on the streetlights, every 2 to 10 homes. And we're finding, I live in Totnes, and around Totnes we have cancer clusters around the phone masts. We have farms, and this is in France, we have farmers who are getting paid £20,000 a year, 20,000 euros, to have phone masts up on their land, and after a year or two the livestock are dropping dead. So if this is doing what it is to the animals, why are we rolling out this technology on our streets? Now, are our councils insured against damage to health from electromagnetic fields? This is extremely important, because they're obviously not. And we know this due to the result of freedom of information requests that have been sent out. And I think this is where the action must take place, challenging our local town councils. On a local level, we must organize up and down the country, because we're seeing progress across the country. We've seen progress in Glastonbury with Chris Baker and others in getting the precautionary principle enacted, and Totnes, Kingsbridge, Frome, many places across the country, and many various actions. Norway, Denmark, we're seeing legal action now being taken against governments and holding them to account. Because 5G is not something we can stand around and wait for. We don't have time on our hands. And Professor Martin Powell, who's Emeritus Professor of Biochemistry at Washington State University, is one of the many experts sounding the alarm on the rollout of 5G. And he made a statement recently saying that without 5G, with the radiation exposure just from 4G and what we already have, we have between 4 to 6 years before we see the collective collapse of brain function across modern industrialized societies. And with 5G fully implemented, he's given the timeline of about a few months. So a lot of these electromagnetic fields cross the blood-brain barrier. We're seeing more dementia, more Alzheimer's. So we really need to stand up and be counted and organize in our local areas. And today I'm going to read to you the space appeal, the 5G space appeal, that was authored by Arthur Furstenberg and Claire Edwards. And Claire has translated this, administrated the translation of this into 30 different languages. It's an extremely important document, a very persuasive document. And now I'm going to read you some of the space appeal. So, to the UN, World Health Organization, EU, Council of Europe, and governments of all nations. Sorry? That's maximum. How's that? I'll hold it closer to my mouth. So I'm just going to read from the space appeal. This is an extremely important document, and I would recommend everybody to print this and have it carried around with you every day. And if someone challenges you on 5G and calls you a conspiracy theorist, show them this document. Show them the Lancet article. The Lancet is one of the most respected medical journals in the world, with plenty of peer-reviewed science, and the article on electromagnetic fields was written by 2 doctors, and it endorses the EMF scientist appeal over the ICNIRP guidelines. And of course, as we know in the UK, our government often refers to ICNIRP and people have been writing to their MPs, and they've been getting template letters back recommending and endorsing ICNIRP. Now, ICNIRP are the International Commission for Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection. And can I ask, do many people here have confidence in ICNIRP and the ICNIRP guidelines? Can we trust in these guidelines to keep us safe?
No!
I don't think we can we? So ICNIRP are made up of 13 or 14 individuals who do not have a biological background, and the exposure in the guidelines is based on 5 minutes of exposure. Well, with electromagnetic fields, we're exposed to them 24 hours a day. And this body of individuals is based in Germany. They're self-appointed, and they're really not accountable to anybody, and they have a legal disclaimer on their website. So I'm just going to read you some of this document. To the United Nations, World Health Organization, EU, Council of Europe, and governments of all nations, we, the undersigned scientists, doctors, environmental organizations, and citizens from countries urgently call for a halt to the deployment of the 5th generation wireless network, including 5G from space satellites. 5G will massively increase exposure to radio frequency radiation on top of the 2G, 3G, and 4G networks for telecommunications already in place. Radio frequency radiation has been proven harmful for humans and the environment. The deployment of 5G constitutes an experiment on humanity and the environment that is defined as a crime under international law. Telecommunications companies worldwide, with the support of governments, are poised within the next 2 years to roll out the 5th generation wireless network, 5G. This is set to deliver what is acknowledged to be unprecedented societal change on a global scale. We will have smart homes, smart businesses, smart highways, smart cities, and self-driving cars. Virtually everything we own and buy, from refrigerators and washing machines to milk cartons, hairbrushes, and infants' diapers, will contain antennae and microchips and will be connected wirelessly to the internet. Every person on Earth will have instant access to super high-speed, low-latency wireless communications from any point on the planet, even in rainforests, mid-ocean, and the Antarctic. What is not widely acknowledged is that this will also result in unprecedented environmental change on a global scale. The planned density of radio frequency transmitters is impossible to envisage. In addition to millions of new 5G base stations on Earth and 20,000 new satellites in space, 200 billion transmitting objects, according to estimates, will be part of the Internet of Things by 2020. And of course, we're now in 2020. And 1 trillion objects a few years later. Commercial 5G at lower frequencies and slower speeds was deployed in Qatar, Finland, and Estonia in mid-2018. The rollout of 5G at extremely high millimeter wave frequencies is planned, and of course, to begin at the end of 2018. But what we're seeing in this country is the rollout of also the sub-gigahertz range and the lower frequencies. So this is really important. Obviously, the millimeter wave is extremely damaging to health, but we've got to look at the densification here, this rollout and densification of the lower frequency range as well. So despite widespread denial, the evidence that radio frequency radiation is harmful to life is already overwhelming. The accumulated clinical evidence of sick and injured human beings, experimental evidence of damage to DNA, cells, and organ systems in a wide variety of plants and animals, and epidemiological evidence that the major diseases of modern civilization, cancer, heart disease, and diabetes, are in large part caused by electromagnetic pollution, forms a literature base of well over 10,000 peer-reviewed studies. If the telecommunication industry's plans for 5G come to fruition, no person, no animal, no bird, no insect, and no plant on Earth will be able to avoid exposure 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, to levels of radio frequency radiation that are tens to hundreds of times greater than what exists today, without any possibility of escape anywhere on the planet. These 5G plans threaten to provoke serious, irreversible effects on humans and permanent damage to all of the Earth's ecosystems. Immediate measures must be taken to protect humanity and the environment in accordance with ethical imperatives and international agreements. And I'm just going to quickly read this ground-based 5G. This is quite important. In order to transmit the enormous amounts of data required for the Internet of Things, 5G technology, when fully deployed, will use millimeter waves, which are poorly transmitted through solid material, as of course the increased rollout of these lower frequencies. This will require every carrier to install base stations every 100 meters in every urban area in the world, unlike previous generations of wireless technology, in which a single antenna broadcasts over a wide area. 5G base stations and 5G devices will have multiple antennas arranged in phased arrays that work together to emit focused, steerable, laser-like beams that track each other. Each 5G phone will contain dozens of tiny antennas, all working together to track and aim a narrowly focused beam at the nearest cell tower. The US Federal Communications Commission has adopted rules permitting the effective power of those beams to be as much as 20 watts, 10 times more powerful than the levels permitted for current phones. Each 5G base station will contain hundreds of thousands of antennas aiming multiple laser-like beams simultaneously at all cell phones and user devices in its service area. This technology is called multiple in, multiple out, or MIMO. FCC rules permit the effective radiated power of a 5G base station's beams to be as much as 30,000 watts per 100 megahertz of spectrum, or equivalently 300,000 watts per gigahertz of spectrum, tens to hundreds of times more powerful than the levels permitted for current base stations. Now, I just like to tell people why I got involved in 5G. I lost my mother a few years ago due to a brain tumor. She was using a wireless dictaphone a lot to make telephone calls, and I started to look more into find out that more and more people now are becoming electrosensitive. And in Totnes we have a group of 30 people who meet regularly every month who just cannot be around phones or wireless devices, and this is increasing year on year. And these people live a very tough life because they can't live a normal life anymore. And then I also found out that up north, Mark Steele was facing problems with the council, and I went to his court cases, and I met with Barry Trower as well. And Barry Trower is a wonderful man. They're both individuals who, there are so many people working against 5G. But when I found out that 5G, where 5G and these frequencies came from, that they were military frequencies. 5G is a weapons system. This has been used for decades in the military, and a lot of post-traumatic stress syndrome, a lot of the damage caused to troops, a lot of those diseases come from the battlefield. So we have to look into the various applications, and I stress people just look up people like also Jerry Flynn, Nancy Hopkins, Barry Trower, who has extensive experience in the Royal Navy and the Secret Service, and he's worked with bomb disposal units who are targeted with these microwave frequencies. So I just urge people, do your own research. Don't believe what I'm saying today. Look at the peer-reviewed science. Print out the space appeal, print out the EU appeal, print out the Lancet article, and show them to people. Try and speak to 5 people a day on the rollout of 5G, whether you're in the supermarket, whether you're on the phones at the bank. Try and wake new people up. We have to gather our number here. We have to hold our local councils accountable for this crime that is being committed. This contravenes the Nuremberg Code. It breaks a whole range of international laws, and we've seen a lot of progress in 2019 against 5G. So let's keep that progress going in 2020. Let's hold our local representatives responsible and accountable for this, and gather our number. Hold a market stall in your local area. Get flyers, connect with other people, invite people around your home, show them videos with doctors and scientists, documentaries like the 5G apocalypse on 5G, and spread the word. And let's do events on 5G. Let's make them happen up and down the country, and let's stop these phone masts from being installed on hospitals where people are trying to get better, but of course they're making them worse. These massive cell towers that are going up. Everything is coming with Bluetooth now. I was talking to Kirsty earlier. People are just getting electric toothbrushes, everything, everyday appliances. And are we going to allow this to continue to happen? What do you think? Are we going to allow this to continue to happen? No. Thank you. Does everyone want to stop 5G here?
Yes!
That's fantastic. And Rama Knight, who's here. Rama, can you put your hand up? Are you there? Rama held an event for us yesterday in Peckham where we had almost 100 people. And we had a really good response from that. And I think this is what it's about. And when you hear about these events, invite your friends. You know, invite your family. And if you feel that people are not listening, show them the documented evidence. Show them the appeals. Speak to them in a calm manner. Just connect with them gently and slowly. And we're having a lot of success in Devon, where we've got Louise. Louise, can you put your hand... Who's from Devon here today? Any hands up? Is Louise here? Louise Thomas? There you are. So Louise, along with Charlie. Of course, Charlie submitted the space appeal at 10 Downing Street the other day. And really great, you know, that we're managing to get there. But are they going to listen? We have to keep the pressure up. But Charlie, Louise, Rhiannon and others in Devon have been attending their local town councils, and they have been meeting one-to-one with councillors, having a tea or coffee with the councillors and just slowly engaging them with the documented evidence, meeting them, showing them a folder of evidence with the appeals, with the science, and having a cup of tea or coffee and say, do you have children? And trying to engage with them on their level. Look at what their concerns are. Find out about what they're about, what they're interested in, and engage with them one-on-one. Because if we can win over our local town councils and our local MPs, then we really can stand up to what the government is doing. And the government is investing billions into this technology. So I would really like everybody just to engage, attend your local town council meetings, hold talks, you know, engage locally. And the battle must be fought locally.